So good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. We have the pleasure to welcome David Lee, the founder of Cultural Cuba. David has prepared a lovely presentation for today, as he's going to take us through an itinerary, combining Havana with Cartagena and Cienfuegos.
Yes, this is true. Havana, Cienfuegos, and Trinidad.
And Trinidad, sorry. And I had a previous.
You had us heading to Colombia for some reason, you know. We're welcome. We can always combine a trip to Cuba and to Colombia as well. That wouldn't be difficult. Yeah, so nice to have everyone here. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your where are we at? Is it Tuesday? Tuesday morning, afternoon, whatever with us. It's good to be here. I'm going to share my screen right away because I was mentioning this earlier. I've got actually a bit more longer, slide presentation than I usually do, since I'm going to kind of walk you through a part of an itinerary as well. Because I'm on an iPad, you won't see me anymore.
Yeah.
While I'm doing this, you're going to see. There we go.
Perfect, David. So welcome. I see many more joining us now. So welcome, everyone. We're here today with David Lee, the founder of Cultural Cuba. So David, the screen is all yours.
Okay, great. All right, so I'll run through this, and then hopefully we'll save a little time afterwards for some Q&A. I'll come back on the screen. For those of you who are less familiar with us, we are a DMC, Destination Management Company, or as Virtuoso calls us, an on-site, which I like that term because on-site, that should be what every DMC is. It's not always the case, but the point is our operations are headquartered in Havana. That's the seat of everything for us. We do not outsource. When you work with us, you're working. There's nothing between your clients and their experience in the destination of Cuba, except for my team. So we have our own guides, drivers, concierge staff, itinerary planners, everything on the ground in Cuba. Moving on, it is. I can't say this enough. Literally, because you always want to know where who to sell it to, what kind of trips are best and what type of demographic. And there's so much there, so much richness in the culture, so many wonderful experiences. It's really a living museum. This is not a place. I tell people, if you want to go inside actual museums while you're in Cuba, great. There are many, but it's totally unnecessary as well. Because like I said, that's why we call it a living museum. It's most of the time you're just out and about experiencing the culture firsthand, and it does appeal to a wide audience, from children to teenagers, parents to grandparents. Perfect multi-gen location. It's very romantic, so it's a great place for couples, family trips. Very, very safe location, one of the safest places you can travel in the world. So we are also a big growth area for us is females traveling, whether alone or groups of women traveling as well. It's a great destination for that too. So and friendly, LGBTQ friendly destination also. In fact, they're now opening one of the very first, I believe, in Latin America, LGBTQ friendly hotels, actually geared toward that audience. So something for another webinar, though. And I'm going to get into an itinerary pretty soon, but it is also a big growth place for us for destination weddings and milestone birthdays. Very popular because, again, there's something for everyone, and it can be affordable. You don't have to break the bank to treat large groups of friends for a special occasion, whether it's a birthday or a wedding or some other celebratory type trip. And we basically do it all start to finish. So make the entire experience seamless and easy. And we take the kind of mystique out of it. It's often, there's especially in the United States, there's a lot of confusion about the legalities of travel to Cuba, and can you go, and is it open for U.S. travelers? And we heard it can be difficult, and things are always changing, and we just want to kind of throw that out the window completely. It couldn't be easier. You simply contact us, and we make it as seamless and easy as possible. And we can get into issues about legal travel for US citizens as deep as anyone would want to, but I'll explain it pretty quickly on this next slide. And the whole concept behind legal travel from our perspective is this thing called support for the Cuban people, which from the US perspective, the whole restriction really means they want to make sure that the vast majority of money spent by any US traveler going to Cuba goes to the people of Cuba and not the government. And there's a lot of politics behind that. I don't care where you lie in the political spectrum. From our perspective, forget about the politics. Support for the Cuban people is the entire mission statement of our business. And this is what Dominique was talking about before we got started a little bit. Everything we do goes back to the Cuban people. First of all, not only do we make sure that the majority of money, basically almost all of the money spent on travel with us, goes to the people, because we have our own team and our own staff, not government employees. And beyond that, almost all of our margin goes back to support for the Cuban people in a variety of community projects. We have a Head Start preschool, that's what that little picture up in the top right corner is, for disadvantaged youth in Old Havana. Which is completely free of charge for children up until the time they go to kindergarten. And we also have a dance school, again, for children aged 6 to 17. And then at that point, they graduate and they can become part of our professional dance company. We also take part in a senior center. And as we continue to grow and expand travel, we'll have a lot more of these projects. But so for us, this is everything. Again, it's the mission statement. It's the reason for us, having the business that we have. And we always invite the clients to experience where their money is going. It's never mandatory. Nothing we do is mandatory. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you, almost everyone does enjoy experiencing it. It usually becomes one of the highlights of their trips. So, quick little sizzle reel, and then I'm going to jump into one specific itinerary for you. Okay. Could you hear that, by the way, Dominique? Because on my end, for some reason, I couldn't hear the sound.
No, it was perfect.
Oh, good.
Presentation,
okay. Doesn't matter if I hear, as long as you hear the sound, doesn't matter if I hear. Okay. Always, this is a great question. Get asked it a lot. So I'll start our itinerary with this, just so you understand. The majority, I'll say 70% of the trips that we do are Havana-based trips, and they fall into the 3 to 5 night range. And what I mean by Havana-based is that the clients do not need to, they will stay in Havana. Havana is not only the capital, it's the seat of culture. The most to see and do is not just in Havana, but within the day trip, let's just say, 1 to 2 hour drive of Havana. There's so much to see and do, the best accommodations, the best food, the best nightlife, which is why, especially for those people who have never been to Cuba, no need to think of this destination as something that has to be, longer than 5 nights. Again, 3 to 5 nights, 70% of our trips, very simple because you don't have to pack and repack and move on to other cities, 3 to 5 nights. If the clients have more time and they want to go deeper into this island. And by the way, the island of Cuba is very big. It's the length of California. It is, if you were to drive it from end to end, it would take, probably 14 to 16 hours. This is, there's internal flights on Cuban Airlines anyway that do travel within the country. But just to touch on this, the point is, though it's not the safest and most reliable airline by a long shot, we will not put clients on those flights, which is why for the time being, and there you cannot take helicopters. So for the time being, when you leave Havana and you want to continue on throughout the island to other cities, you're going to need to add a minimum of 2 nights because of the long drives. And the itinerary that we're going to talk a little bit more about today would be more like a 7-night trip, because we will add the closest, most interesting cities to drive to from Havana, Cienfuegos, and Trinidad. And so if we were to do that, for example, then we're talking at least a 6-night, probably usually a 7-night trip. And we take a more circuitous route. But the point is, especially if you're traveling back to the US, you have to fly in and out of Havana. Right now, there are no commercial flights to any other cities besides Havana back to the US. And therefore, you're always, anytime we go out and around into the countryside, we're always going to end up coming back to Havana again to fly home. So just to give you an idea. But now if we add in, let's say, go from the 3-night to the 8-night trip, I would say that is 90% of most of the trips that we would have within Cuba. Can you do much longer? Yes, we have trips that circumnavigate the entire island. And, these can easily be 12, 14 night trips. And there's a lot to see and do. Just to continue along. Oh, and I forgot that I should have showed this right away, because there you see the idea here from if you go from let's say west all the way to east, Guantanamo on the far eastern side of the island, and you see Maria Lagourda on the other side. That's what I'm trying to say, is that entire length of the island is about the length of California. You can see Havana, up in the northwestern side. So if you look from there and head now south or down from Havana, you'll see just to the right on the bottom is the Bay of Pigs, and then you can see Cienfuegos to the right of that. And just to give you a perspective, that's about a 4-hour drive from Havana. And Trinidad, which unfortunately it's not showing up right there in words on that map, is just next to Cienfuegos. They're about 30 minutes apart, which is why that makes a great stop. So you stop in Cienfuegos, and from our perspective anyway, that's how we do it. You stop in Cienfuegos, spend about a half day there, but you stay in Trinidad because Trinidad's nightlife is wonderful. Okay, a couple other things as you go out into the countryside from a more adventurous standpoint, more experiencing nature and that sort of thing. Fishing, birding, and snorkeling and scuba diving, world class in Cuba. So if you have clients who are birders, they probably already know about it. And these fit well into a 6 to 8 night trip, birding and fly fishing as well, but especially birding, because right near the Bay of Pigs is an area called the Zapata Swamp. Famous location for birding. If someone is an avid scuba diver and doesn't want to just do a day scuba dives can be done also near the Bay of Pigs. There's some beautiful locations for that. But one of the top diving destinations, and I'm a big scuba diver myself, one of the top diving destinations in the world, it's on pretty much every top 10 list, is the Gardens of the Queen. But this requires a live aboard. So a minimum, I would say, 8 to 10 day trip to do the Gardens of the Queen properly. Okay, here we go. Oh, and this map is even better with this. So now you can see the Cienfuegos and how close Trinidad is. So this particular itinerary that we're going to run through is a 7-night itinerary. Start with 4 nights in Havana, leave Havana, spend 2 nights in Trinidad with a stop in Cienfuegos along the way, and then a night back in Havana at the end, because again, like I was mentioning, that's the area that almost everyone will be flying in and out of. You have to do a circuitous route and go back to Havana at some point. In this way, nice, easy way, spend a wonderful last evening in Havana to make it easy for the airport check-in the next morning. And currently, by the way, for the American travelers, and as long as this is still in place, we will need to get back to Havana to do the COVID antigen test, which is currently required prior to travel. And we do that. It's included in all of our trips, comfortably, safely, right in the hotel room. We have nurse practitioners come in and administer the test either the night before or the morning of travel, depending on how much time we have before the flight. Okay, so let's jump right in. By the way, all of our trips always have a full-time private dedicated guide. Our guides are fluent, obviously fluent in Spanish since they are Cuban. They are also fluent in English. Our guides also speak a multitude of other languages depending on what's needed for the clients. But again, fluent in English, highly educated. This is where kind of the beginning, this is the baseline for us. The concept for us with our guides is that it's like traveling with a local friend, a very warm, engaging, and fun local friend who just wants to bring you into their world. That's the concept. It's not a professorial kind of situation where they're pointing out dates and statues out the window, and not at all. It's all about coming in and really feeling like a local the entire time you're traveling. That's the idea. So our trips start when the clients arrive. It really starts with what their airline schedule is. It's not about, oh, when do you check into your hotel? And then you go and we have a transfer that just takes you to your hotel. And at some point, your guide might meet you and a tour would start. No, our whole experience begins right from the time you land at the airport. We always provide VIP arrival. So as soon as the clients get down the jetway, someone is waiting there with a sign to whisk them through. The first stop is a nurse's station, which is obviously new since COVID, but let's assume that's going to continue for a while, where they process the necessary requirements for entry into the island. And a quick thing about that, right now, to go to Cuba, you must be vaccinated. That is the base level requirement. You have to be vaccinated. They do not allow you to go to the island if you're not vaccinated. You also have to have a proof of a negative PCR test taken within 72 hours. So our VIP arrival person takes them through that station. From there, you go through passport control. They then take you and you go into a VIP lounge where you can have a mojito, a beer, water, whatever you want, have some snacks while they collect your luggage. From there, this is all handheld all the way through this VIP arrival process. You are then taken through the final stage of, where you're going through customs with your bags. The doors open up, you walk outside, and waiting for you is your private guide and driver. And off you go, and your tour starts. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you arrive at 10 a.m. and check into most hotels, right, is until 2 or 3 or even later. That has nothing to do with anything. The trip starts right away. Off you go. So in this case, let's just say it's a later arrival. So you do arrive, you're checked into the hotel. We have a wonderful dinner at a local paladar. And I'll get into the concept of the paladar. I think, let's see, might be on the next, in a couple of slides. At dinner, and again, one thing I want you to understand, this is a sample, this itinerary that I'm going to run through right now. All of our itineraries are completely custom. So you won't see it on our website. You won't see itineraries that have a name, like this is the Cultural Cuba, long weekend Havana itinerary. This is the Cultural Cuba jazz itinerary. This is our salsa itinerary. This is our, Hemingway itinerary. We don't do that. And the reason we don't do it is because if we were to have itineraries with names, they would be the names of your clients. We don't want anything cookie cutter. That's not what we're about. Every client is different. The way they travel is different. The pacing. Some clients, as you know, want to just really relax and have a lot of downtime, a lot of flexibility, and not be overscheduled. Some clients want to get up and go all through the day. Some people really want to have deep dives into culture or arts or museums, architecture. Others want to focus mostly on cigars and rum. Great. We create the itinerary based around the desires of your clients. That's how it works. So again, that's why I want to reiterate, everything I run through here is just a sample to give you an idea of what a flow might be for us. So on this particular day, while they're having dinner, we will invite, who happens to be a very good friend of mine, one of the directors. He's actually, at one point, he was the head sommelier. Now he is literally one of the senior directors of the Havana Club Rum Company. He will come personally and sit down right around dessert, let's say, with your clients and run them through a private rum tasting and cigar pairing. I can't say enough about the experience. It's very special. And whether you're into rum or cigars or not, everyone enjoys this. It's a great welcome to your time in Cuba. Next day, breakfast at the hotel. By the way, almost universally, wherever we have our clients staying, and it might be at a 5-star hotel like the Kempinski Manzana, or it could be at a very boutique hotel or a private villa. Breakfast will be served at the accommodations. The guide will then come, depending again on the schedule we've decided on with your clients, shortly after breakfast, and the day will start from there with the guide. So in this case, we would then have a walking tour of Old Havana. Old Havana is just a fascinating mixture of these renovated squares that have been painstakingly renovated. Renovation is a big deal in Cuba. Protecting the cultural heritage and the historic architectural heritage is very important. And that's something that they'll show, but the other thing is the dichotomy. They'll be able to kind of show you the areas that are completely unrenovated and, juxtapose the situation, because this is one of the fascinating things about travel to Cuba as well, especially, that part of Havana. Havana just grabs you. It's unlike anywhere else you travel, certainly in the Caribbean. It has a 500-year-old history, this city. It's really a European city. It's greatly dilapidated in a lot of parts, which also adds to the charm. Maybe that's not the best word to use for it, because it's also, it also grabs you if there's a sadness to that as well. But it's part of the overall experience. And those who are into photography and architecture, and even if you're not, you can't help but be moved by it. So wonderful walking tour of Old Havana. And, this kind of thing, and this is what our guides will do, you could spend a full day easily just in Old Havana. And sometimes we do. So it really, again, depends on the clients and how deep they want to go and what they want to do and their pacing. So in this case, we have this trip in Old Havana, and then this picture in the corner there is a stop at this famous bar called Bodeguita del Medio, which is where the mojito was invented. It's a really cool bar, one of the most famous bars in the world. Great stop in Old Havana, followed by lunch again in a paladar. So I told you about this earlier, paladars. Especially when clients travel with us, every single meal will be in a private paladar. And I think this is about a 4-minute video. I'm gonna play it for you in its entirety, I think. Let me see how much time we have here, because I can't say enough about the food, and you need to see this yourselves.
El Carbón is located in Old Havana. This private restaurant first opened on 2012 by Chef Ivan and his partner at a gorgeous colonial house from 1766. Today, Chef Ernesto took a time to prepare a delicious and generous portion of ceviche with the use of fresh lime juice, corn grains, and purple onion, also adding dried fruits, altogether resulting in a flavor blast only rivaled by the scent of a splendid grilled lobster smoked on charcoal and set on a bed of vegetable slices. Fresh produce is a must-do that explains the day-to-day changing menu, never missing house special dishes like the lamb ribs, crab risotto, and the revered suckling pig. In our days, it holds a great culinary reputation and has been visited by numerous celebrities like Will Smith, Mick Jagger, and personalities from the United Nations. Chef Ivan first studied in the reputed restaurant La Ferminia, a project led by Fidel Castro with the aim of catering and hosting political and diplomatic encounters with important personalities of the world. Later on, he traveled to Europe and took courses in Portugal and Germany prior to establishing a restaurant with a menu that portrayed his ideas and own creations. La Guarida is a spoiled on every list, both for their history and food. A necessary comment is the Oscar award-winning film Strawberry and Chocolate that gave much of today's atmosphere and decor. This afternoon, chefs Axel and Fidel invited us into the kitchen to witness the preparation of spinach crepes with beet juice, a hot yet balanced sweet salty appetizer, preceded by curry chicken in a sauce of caramel onions and raisins, finishing with a crunchy, silky, suckling pig that melts the mouth on the first sight. A trip of reckoning and learning to Europe will provide some definite influences that will mold their way of updating typical with modern, but never missing the Cuban essence. La Reserva's culinary project stems from the successful private small hotel founded in 2016 by 3 European architects and 1 Cuban entrepreneur. In keeping with times, they are also betting for self-supplying in the future and also using ingredients from small private businesses. Surtido Crujiente is a crunchy mix of fish, chicken, and black bean croquettes with shrimp chests and fried eggplant sticks. Dipping them all into a silky Baracoa chocolate sauce is to have the whole experience. Their style focuses on Cuban regional food after researching for old recipes from the central and the eastern part of the country. So far, they oppose the idea of having a leading chef, so if you're expecting to complement his food, be ready to be surrounded by a team of 4 cooks. Isla del Coco, or Coconut Island, is a recipe brought from the Isle of Youth. They start by marinating the chicken breast in a carrot, squash, and coconut milk sauce, then grilling the piece, serving it finally with a sweet corn pie and smoked vegetables. Sweet, salty, spectacular. Last but not least, tropical tart is an attempt to diminish the bad reputation of Cuban desserts being a little too sweet. Pie dough is filled with a custard cream of mamey, a sacred fruit for Cubans, and then glazed fruits in season bring texture to this colorful, refreshing tart, this time made with guava, pineapple, and papaya.
Wow, fantastic video, David.
Yes, so I did want to play that all the way through, even though well, first of all, one of the things we have our own in-house video and photography team. I'm always very, very proud of them. And we, during this, unfortunate 2 years when basically Cuba was literally closed off for all travel, we did keep our entire staff employed and to keep them. We didn't want it to be just an economic thing. We want to keep their minds and everything else active. We had our guides and our video team put together a variety of videos. We let all of the guides kind of pick their favorite part of Cuban culture, come up with their own scripts and go out with the video teams and shoot these videos. And so that video is just an example. They chose the Paladars and cuisine. I had very little personally, I have very little hand in what they made, and I was just absolutely blown away. it's just another example of the Cuban people. I can't say enough about their talent, especially in the creative arts. So Paladar, again, this is where all of our clients will dine. Every single meal will be an adventure in itself. I mean, a Paladar really started out as a table in someone's kitchen. As you can see also by that video, it has evolved from there. But the point is, this all falls under this concept of support for the Cuban people, because these are not government owned, they're private. In order to qualify as a Paladar, it has to be your home. You can convert the ground floor completely into a restaurant, but you must live in the home. You either live upstairs or you live, you have some rooms next door. But that's the concept. They're family-run businesses, and the food is just out of this world. So, again, like I said, every meal, every lunch and dinner will be at a different Paladar, different type of cuisine. And some of them are like Michelin star quality. Some are very home style, but it's always an adventure. Moving on, we love to, in addition to the guide that of course is there and brings you into the culture, we want to have as much experience with other Cubans from various walks of life throughout the journey. So and a lot of it will be around, music and the arts. So we would have an experience like I was showing here with a famous photographer. You can go to his private studio. He talks about, his life and his experiences. And then depending on the desires of the client, we'll often have him do a bit of a photo safari. He'll take the clients with him into neighborhoods that you wouldn't normally go to, and kind of view it through his eyes. Don't have to be an avid photographer. These days, more people and including myself, I also love photography. I shoot a lot of pictures just with my iPhone, and they encourage that, and they'll help you get the most out of just taking iPhone pictures as well. So after that, another wonderful Paladar experience, and then going to a very, very interesting, it's a nightclub, but it's hard to just describe it as a nightclub. This is something called the Fábrica de Arte, or Art Factory. This is also now was recently listed. I think it was either Forbes or Time that listed it as one of the top 5 nightlife experiences you could experience in the world. I can't say enough about it. It's a multi-level installation that was in a former cooking oil factory, and there's an ever-changing art exhibit. There's performance art. There's multiple bands playing, multiple bars. You can get lost in there. It's a really special experience. All right, moving on. This is some pictures from inside the Fábrica de Arte. Next day, after breakfast, a visit to Fusterlandia. That was that first picture there, famous ceramic artist. And then getting further out into the countryside, in this particular itinerary, we'll take the clients to a place called Las Terrazas. I could do a whole nother webinar just talking about Las Terrazas. It's a fascinating UNESCO World Heritage site, former coffee plantation area that was an experiment done actually by the Cuban government to help farmers rejuvenate an area. And now it's this self-contained community. A lot of people compare it to like a kibbutz in Israel, where, it's so popular that you can't get into this community unless you marry in or were born into it, because people just do not want to leave. So that's a perfect little like half-day trip, because it's only about an hour drive from Havana. Come back, and in the evening, we would have a former cultural attaché diplomat and one of the top history professors at the University of Havana join the clients for dinner. Again, every time we have someone like this come and meet with the clients, it's very relaxed, easygoing, lighthearted. It's just having someone interesting to join you, to give you another little inside slice of life within the location. And for a lot of people, this is very unique. They're not used to traveling like this. And so again, it's not mandatory. We just offer the possibility. Most people, thankfully, do take advantage of it, and it's life-changing. people say, like, once they've traveled this way with us, they want to experience this in other locations as well. Okay. Fourth day, and at this point, a lot of people feel like they've already had a week-long trip because there's so much that we can offer and do. Usually a cigar factory tour, very popular. It's a huge part of Cuban culture. So whether you're into cigars or not, it's not only a trip back in time, because these factories are the same as they were 100 years ago, and everything is, handmade, hand rolled. It's very interesting to visit. So that's often a highlight. And after that, cemetery visits. Some people would think, why would I ever do that on any kind of tour? But there are some really amazing, famous cemeteries in the world, and the Columbus Cemetery is something that has to be seen to be believed, and the amazing stories that have occurred there. And then, of course, a lot of people want to go see the famous estate of Ernest Hemingway. He lived there. It was probably his most beloved home. Lived there for well over a decade, wrote several of his most famous novels, including The Old Man and the Sea. His most famous fishing boat is there. It's a very interesting experience. We follow that up post-lunch. Another option is to have private salsa lessons in one of the oldest salsa schools in the world. And by the way, when we say we're doing something like a private salsa lesson, this is not the instructor is not standing in front of you and you're dancing, with your group or with whoever you're with, fumbling your way through. Every single person will have their own professional dancer who works with them. You're together, but everyone has that. And that's how we do the salsa lessons. And it's a wonderful experience, even for people who think there's no way I want to get up there and try salsa dancing. Of course, experiencing the classic cars, you might think it's touristy. Guess what? You are a tourist, and it's a great experience. It's not just touristy, because you will see these classic American cars from the minute you get out of the airport. They're everywhere. Not all of them are in incredible shape. They look like they're held together with duct tapes and rubber bands. But again, it's part of the experience, and almost everyone enjoys it. We usually will add to that the experience of having one of our photographers follow along while you're traveling around in the convertibles. And it's like having your own private paparazzi. They will follow in a chase car and take just incredible photographs as you drive around. And this, again, is just what we include. It's what we do. It's part of every trip, unless someone really just doesn't want that experience. Again, a wonderful dinner. This was at La Guarita, which was featured in the film. And this isn't necessarily something that we'll do for every single itinerary. This one would be more of an add-on, but it's, again, the kind of thing that we encourage and we often do. We will have an award-winning, in this case, Grammy-nominated jazz trio perform privately for the clients, and we'll have them up on a rooftop location. In this case, it would be at La Guarita, already private for them, and have this performance. And often we'll do it as a surprise, something the clients are just not expecting. Okay, time to leave Havana. Wake up. In this case, we're going to have a visit to that Head Start preschool that I mentioned, because it's right in Old Havana, so it's easy to get to. Probably do a little song and dance, or maybe a quick arts and crafts project with the children. It's a win-win. They love it, having visitors. It's a very special experience for the clients, and it's a way for them to really see firsthand where the money is going when we talk about this support for the Cuban people. After a visit to the preschool, we head toward Cienfuegos. Beautiful, beautiful town right on the water. Again, it's about a 3.5-hour drive. For those that are interested, on the way, it's very easy, because it's probably about a little over 2-hour drive, and directly on the way to Cienfuegos, we can stop at the famous Bay of Pigs. For those of you who are remember the history post-revolution. The Bay of Pigs is a famous location where there was an attempt to remove Fidel Castro and create a coup. Cuban Americans tried to land at the Bay of Pigs. It was spectacularly unsuccessful. But anyway, this location, forgetting about the history of it, there is a small history museum that talks about the Bay of Pigs, which very much from the Cuban point of view, which is also interesting. But it's also a great spot for snorkeling and, as I said, birding. So, and it's right on the way. So after leaving the Bay of Pigs, head to Cienfuegos. Again, this is a town where, from my perspective, it's not very large. Some people do spend the night there, but we think it's great for a half day, more of a touring situation. And I won't get too much in detail because I know we're getting low on time, but we can always get into more of this, when we talk one-on-one. Anytime we're planning an itinerary for your clients, we'll get into detail. And we love, if you're okay with it, we love having you and the clients on a Zoom call when we're getting into planning itineraries, so we can go through this stuff in detail and they can have they can really understand what we're putting into their itineraries. So moving on, you spend a half day in Cienfuegos, and from there travel on to Trinidad. It's not an hour and a half from Cienfuegos, so I think that's just a misprint in this particular slideshow, which we'll correct. It's really only about, let's just say, 45 minutes max from Cienfuegos. Trinidad is like it shows in that picture in the bottom corner. It's all big cobblestone streets. It's a walking city. It's not very large. It is, talk about stepping back in time. We're not stepping back 50, 60 years. Now you're stepping back, 200 years when you're staying in this little town. And it's just a phenomenal location, great food, so quaint. I kind of sometimes compare it to, it's like Venice would be in Italy, that type of environment in a way. Very few cars. You have horses and buggies, moving around. You don't need more than 2 nights because, again, it's very small. But the nightlife, I can't say enough about it. It's just music pouring out of every bar. There's a Casa de la Musica, which is an open air music venue that every single night there's music playing. The Casa de la Trova, which is the famous place for La Trova, which is a very specific Cuban style of like folk music, I guess is the best way for me to describe it. And this is part of the experience. In addition, there's wonderful hiking and beautiful beaches very close by, and you can hike to the beach. That's a picture of the Playa Ancon, which is right there. You can see how gorgeous that beach is. Very private. There's no big hotels. It's not like Veradero, which is another famous location in Cuba for beaches, which is basically just giant all-inclusive hotels. This one, quiet, sleepy, almost feels like a secret beach. And then there's another area where you do amazing hikes and there's beautiful waterfalls. So all of this can be part of a 2-day kind of Trinidad experience. And for those that are into a little more of the nightlife, late night nightlife, there's a disco literally inside of a cave. This is in the city of Trinidad. It doesn't even open until midnight. So like I said, it's a very late night experience, but special. It's hard to describe. It's like a raw cave with stalagmites and stalactites. And then, this disco is just built right inside of it. So from there, after a couple of nights, drive back to Havana, again, about a 3.5-hour drive. There should be enough time to at least have a late afternoon visit to some art studios and maybe a few of the really interesting boutiques and shops. I'll play this just briefly.
Art is part of the soul of Cuba, and unlike other places in the world, it is experienced not in traditional galleries, but you can actually visit the artists' home studios. Over there you have the chance to not only view their work, but actually meet the artists themselves, exchange ideas and opinions with them, and even observe them during their creative process, which is a true delight for the eyes and minds of all those who appreciate fine arts.
Hello, my name is
Okay,
Lee.
I'm going to stop it there because it's another 4-minute video. It's one of the videos from the project that I was explaining earlier. And I encourage you to jump on our website if you have more time, because all the videos that are on there are fantastic. And we have more that are in production. But we have one on food. We have this one on art, fine art, and gallery visits. We have one about the classic cars. And by the way, we have our own fleet of beautifully retro modified classic cars. When I say retro modified, they have basically they've had air conditioning put into them that we also have for our clients. So again, we outsource as little as possible. And we have we have another one on Jewish Cuba as well. And we have some more that are coming out. There's one about nightlife and nightclubs, and the possibilities are endless, and then we'll be continually producing these. But the quick thing about the art. So Cuban art is really having its day. There's a combination of wonderful street artists, artists that are emerging, artists that are already exhibiting, all over the world in all of the famous galleries. But when you're in Cuba, it's not a gallery-focused culture. So buying art or just going to see art involves meeting the artists themselves in their home studios. That's what's so special about it. And that's what this video kind of talks about. So that would be an example of what we might do on the last day. And then departure day, again, always depends on when the flight is, but usually because this location is relatively on the way to the airport, we'll often make a stop at the dance school that I had mentioned. That's part of where our support for the Cuban people funds are going. And it's a wonderful way. It's either a great way to start the trip or also a wonderful way to end the trip. Can't say enough about the dance company. We have a whole video about the dance company also on the website. So, all right, I'm going to come back on screen. And
Thank you so much, David, for taking us around this way, and a fabulous itinerary. I'm sure everyone will agree, and great to actually sell as it is to your clients. Huh? So we have a few questions from Celine. Buenos dias. How is Cuba doing? I would say after the pandemic, or still kind of the end of it.
Yes. So I mean, I won't sugarcoat it. It's been very difficult. Very, very difficult period of time for them. Tourism is, one of the most important sources for the GDP of the country. It's been a very tough time. But listen, they're survivors. If there's anything you can say about the Cuban people, it's amazing, through history, what has happened to them and how much they adapt. And the great news is now, so they reopened the borders on November 15th. They've developed their own vaccine. Everyone has received 3, and now most of the countries already received booster shots. Their cases are very, very low, which is why they felt comfortable reopening, and tourism is coming back. So life has returned. It doesn't take a lot. The Cuban people want to be out and about. It's part of their culture. They live spontaneously, and like I said, they have this joie de vivre, especially when it comes to the arts, music, dance, and everything else. So life has returned to the streets already.
Thank you, David. Elizabeth, you want to know what age for vaccination? 12 and older?
Yes. 12 and older, you have to be vaccinated to come to the island. And again, this stuff is always in flux, right? So let's assume for the remainder of 2022, that'll probably be the policy.
Thank you. Alex wants to know if you go down to the town of Vinales as well of any of your itineraries.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So Vinales Valley is what he's referring to. This is west of Havana. It can be done as a day trip. You can also, if you want to spend more time, we can sometimes do it as an overnight. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous location, steeped in history, but it's also the site of where the tobacco plantations are. And these are the most famous tobacco plantations in the world. So this is usually part of a visit to Vinales Valley. and it's about a 2.5-hour drive. So we tend to do it mostly as a day trip, but yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
very, very popular.
Céline, you had a question when you mentioned Paradox. This building looks quite bigger than the usual Cuban Paradox, or is it a picture for something else? So, of course, we passed the presentation now. So,
What
on Céline on the Q&A. So I'm not.
I didn't understand the word
Yeah,
paradox.
it's
You mean
Paradox. Céline, if you want to tell us a little more.
Paladar? Do you mean the
Maybe
Paladar?
Paladar, but yeah, I don't know. If you want to tell us a little more of probably there was a big picture, the white one, when you said the Paladar. You know the first question?
Yeah, so the Paladars some Paladars have 50, 60 tables in them now. Those are the biggest of them. Most of them are much smaller. So it's true. Most Paladars are very small, maybe 10 to 15 tables or less. But there are a couple of them, like La Guarida, which is so famous now and is one of the older Paladars. That one has expanded, has a huge outdoor area. So that's probably the one that she's referring to.
Yeah. Martin, you want to know if they deal with Canadian, with clients from Canada. And I would say you deal with everyone, huh, David?
Oh, everyone. Oh, yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yes. The thing is, so let's just say 70% of our business comes from the United States, 30% from everywhere around the world. Canada, Europe, it's very popular with Asia now as well, the Middle East. We have clients coming from Australia, just about everywhere. The thing that we try to explain to people is this is a cultural destination. We view it as a cultural destination. It's the main reason to go. They also have absolutely gorgeous beaches, so it can be a beach destination too, for sure. We don't change what we do. So that's why I don't like to spend too much time talking about this whole concept of legal travel. That does apply to the US citizens, but at the end of the day, our itineraries are always custom, and therefore it doesn't matter whether you're coming from the US or you're coming from Europe or anywhere else.
Well, yeah.
What we do is what we do, period, for everyone.
And you do it well, let me say. So much to
I
offer.
think so. I think we do,
me,
yes.
Me, I'm, with my French background, the food is like, I can't wait. I think to eat in places like this, for every meal, it's a dream. The dancing, I'm not too much into cigar. Why not a little bit of rum? And then artsy and giving back to the community. I really hope everyone will be as enthusiastic as I am, and to promote this destination with all.
Yes. And I'll tell you before we go, as far as that's concerned, we are starting something actually right away, which we're calling like the Anytime FAMs. We're going to have, we'll have a few of your kind of more traditional type FAMs that are geared towards specific, groups of travel advisors. But the reality is, let's face it, all of you, your busy schedules, and, you sell travel for a living, you also travel for a living, and therefore we want to make it easier. And we also want you to be able to put your own trips together, go when you want to go, and have significant others come with you, have family come with you if you want, groups of friends, or put your own groups together of friends who are travel advisors, either way. So what we're doing is creating this thing called the Anytime FAM. You can reach out to Dominique, you can come to us direct, however you want to do it. We'll walk you through the process, and these will be deeply discounted experiences. It's not going to be completely free, but let's say certainly less than half of what we would normally be charging your clients to do the things that we do. But we will pull out all the stops, no shortcuts, and you'll be able to design your own trip with us, with our help. And like I said, and that discount would apply to everyone who goes with you for your group, whether they're travel advisors or not. And that's what we want. We want you to come. This is the year, especially 2022. This is the time we really want all of you to come and really experience Cuba. And it's the best way, we know it's the best way for you to sell it to your clients. You got to be there for yourselves. And the kinds of pictures and things like that you're going to have to post on social media, that they'll do all the selling for you. Exactly. Honestly.
That's why I cannot wait to go there.
Yeah.
Joanne, thank you for loving the presentation. Martin, you said, yes, a copy of the video will be sent. You mean the copy of the video maybe not the recording of the webinar, you tell us exactly what you need. At least we're going to send you the recording. As David mentioned, all the videos are on his website. You know, all of you, that you can reach David. We have a lovely appointment platform called www.letsconnect365.com, and you can make an appointment, a Zoom meeting with David. We see that more and more of you, especially for our DMC, are inviting your clients to join. And I think we have Leonidas from, I was telling me recently, every out of 10, he's getting 9, you're getting 9 bookings. When you bring your clients on the call with a DMC, you're almost sure to sell. Huh?
Oh, yeah, we love doing it.
9 out of 10.
Like, there's no reason not to do that.
Yes, yeah.
And just so you're aware as well, we have a travel advisor portal on our website. If for those of you who are on the call who haven't signed up yet, please, you go on the site, you register with us. It takes literally 5 seconds. We just need your IATA, and that's about, you know, a little bit of information. You'll get a password, because we are a B2B company. We only sell our services through you, period. Clients can't come to us direct. We don't compete with you. We don't fish in your pond, so to speak. So you're very, very important to us. And we need that, you know, this is a symbiotic relationship between the two of us. It's critical.
Yeah.
So all of this thing, all these videos, everything, they're in our travel advisor portal. And yes, you're welcome to grab them, use them. We want you to.
Mm-hmm. Happy to see you, Alan. You said interested for the fall or next January or February. You have 4 people already, so that's great.
Great.
What is the price point for 7-night trip on the high side?
So I'll give you a range. It's easier this way. And our trips, like I said, they include everything. So 90% of any money anyone's going to spend in Cuba, you know, because it's accommodations, it's the guide, driver, all of the sites and excursions and experiences, everything I showed you in that little, you know, walkthrough that we did. That's just what we do. It's all included. And our pricing, it varies a bit because of seasonality, the number of people who are traveling, the group size will affect the price. There's a range of accommodations, let's just say from the 5-star hotel and then boutique hotels, but we are a high-end company. If we talk about accommodations, there's no accommodation that would not be really, really nice, just to be clear. But I have to use a range. So just say like $650 to a little over $1,000 per person per day, double occupancy for our types of trips. So that trip that I just walked you through with everything, again, everything we talked about, everything included, people will really not have to bring almost any money other than, you know, what they've already spent with us, would probably be around between 5,000 to 6,000 per person, something like that. But that's literally it, everything.
Amazing for what you put in. Huh? It's not just a hotel and the transfer. I mean, it's incredible. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, and that's key because, you know, often, and we'll talk about this when we get into like any proposals with you. So they're comparing apples and apples. You know, a client can't think, oh, well, you know, if they're comparing it to just getting a hotel room and a transfer somewhere, they might not understand and think that sounds expensive, but they have to realize this is everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So thank you everyone for joining us. I do not see any more questions. If you have one more for David. And if not, we're going to conclude our webinar today. Thank you very much, David. It was wonderful. I love the mix of videos and the slide, and very lively, and such a great country to discover. Huh? That
yeah, it is.
Doesn't know.
It is. Much, huh? Can't wait to welcome you all there and your clients, of course.
Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. And I wish you a good rest of the day. Huh? Bye-bye.